What if two ingredients sitting in your kitchen right now, ingredients you probably already own, could do more for your body after 50 than most things your doctor has ever recommended you pick up at a pharmacy? I know that sounds bold, and I know you've heard big promises before, but stay with me for just the next 2 minutes because what I'm about to share with you is backed by thousands of years of use across ancient civilizations, and more importantly, by a growing body of modern clinical science that very few people are actually talking about in plain, simple terms. I'm Dr. Olivia Brooks, and welcome back to Urology Education and Vitality, the channel where we cut through the noise and give you real, science-based guidance for living stronger, feeling better, and staying sharp well into your 50s, 60s, and beyond. Today's video is one I've been wanting to make for a long time. We're talking about turmeric and garlic, two of the most studied, most ancient, and most underestimated natural compounds on the planet. And more specifically, we're going to talk about what happens when you combine them correctly, because that part, the correctly part, is where most people get it completely wrong. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how these two work in your body, why they work even better together, and the simple, practical steps you can take starting today to get real results. So make sure you stay all the way through because I'm saving one of the most important tips for the end, something most health channels never mention, and it could completely change how you use these two. Before we go any further, I want to take a quick second to say, if this is your first time here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. This channel is built specifically for men who want real answers about their health, their vitality, and their urological well-being, without the fluff, without the fear, and without being talked down to. And if you're already part of this community, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world are you watching from right now. I read every single comment and I love knowing who's on this journey with us. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you believe in the power of simple, natural, consistent health habits. Okay, let's get into it. Why these two? Let's start at the very beginning. Why these two? Why turmeric? Why garlic? And why are we combining them instead of just using them separately? Here's the honest answer. There are thousands of natural compounds, herbs, and foods that have been studied for their health effects, but very few of them have the kind of multi-layered, well-documented cross-cultural history that turmeric and garlic share. These aren't trendy superfoods someone invented in a marketing office last year. Turmeric has been used in Ayurvedic medicine in India for over 4,000 years. Ancient Egyptian manuscripts reference garlic as far back as 1550 BC. Ancient Greek athletes consumed garlic before competition. Roman soldiers carried it into battle. These civilizations didn't have double-blind, randomized controlled trials, but they had thousands of years of observational wisdom, passed down generation after generation, refined through lived human experience. And here's what makes this really exciting. From a modern scientific standpoint, when researchers began studying these compounds seriously in the late 20th century, they found that the ancient wisdom held up. The mechanisms that explain why these ingredients work are becoming clearer with every passing decade of research. And for men over 50, men who are dealing with the natural effects of aging on circulation, inflammation, prostate health, hormonal balance, and metabolic function, turmeric and garlic address several of those challenges simultaneously. Now, I want to be very clear about something right from the start. This is not a video about miracle cures. This is not a video telling you to throw away your prescriptions or stop seeing your doctor. What this is a video about understanding how certain natural compounds, used correctly and consistently as part of your daily lifestyle, can provide meaningful, documented support for your body's most important systems. That's a very different conversation, and it's a conversation worth having. So let's talk about what each of these actually does inside your body. And then we'll get to the part that most people completely miss, which is how combining them amplifies those effects in a way that is genuinely remarkable. What turmeric actually does in your body. Let's start with turmeric and specifically with curcumin, which is turmeric's most studied bioactive compound. Now, you've probably heard the word curcumin thrown around a lot. It's what gives turmeric its bright golden color, and it's what most of the research focuses on. But here's something important to understand. Turmeric root contains dozens of bioactive compounds called curcumoids, and they all work together. So when we talk about curcumin, we're really talking about it as the lead actor in a much bigger cast. The single most important thing curcumin does in your body is this. It modulates your inflammatory response. Now, I want to stop right there and really explain what that means, because inflammation is one of those words that gets used constantly without people really understanding it. Inflammation is not your enemy. Let me say that again. Inflammation in its proper form is not your enemy. It's actually one of your body's most brilliant defense mechanisms. When you cut your finger, when you fight off a bacterial infection, when your muscles are sore after exercise, that's inflammation doing its job. It's sending blood, immune cells, and repair signals to exactly where they're needed. Without inflammation, you wouldn't heal from anything. You'd be dead within weeks. The problem, and this is the real problem that most men over 50 are dealing with, whether they know it or not, is what scientists call chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation. This is a completely different beast. This is not the kind of inflammation that flares up, does its job, and goes away. This is a slow, persistent, silent fire that burns in your body day after day, month after month, sometimes for years. And unlike the acute inflammation that causes redness or swelling, you can actually see chronic low-grade inflammation doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always cause obvious pain. It operates quietly in the background while it steadily chips away at your body's ability to function optimally. Here's why this matters so much, specifically for men in their 50s and beyond. Clinical research has established strong associations between elevated chronic inflammatory markers, particularly a protein called C-reactive protein, or CRP, and a wide range of conditions that are disproportionately common in older men. We're talking about slower recovery from illness, more persistent joint and muscle discomfort, metabolic dysfunction that makes weight management increasingly difficult, cardiovascular strain, and critically reduced efficiency of the immune system, which affects how well your body responds to everything from a common cold to more significant health challenges. There's also a growing body of urological research connecting chronic systemic inflammation to conditions like benign prostatic hyperplasia, commonly known as an enlarged prostate, as well as contributing factors in lower urinary tract symptoms that affect a massive percentage of men over 50. We'll come back to that urological connection in more detail a little later in this video, because it is one of the most important and least talked about aspects of this entire conversation. Now back to curcumin. What curcumin does specifically is inhibit several of the key molecular pathways that drive this kind of excessive chronic systemic inflammation. The most studied of these pathways is called the NF-κB pathway. Without getting too deep into the biochemistry, NF-κB is essentially a signaling protein that, when overactivated, tells your cells to keep producing inflammatory compounds, even when there's no real threat. Curcumin has been shown in multiple studies to suppress this overactivation, essentially telling your body's alarm system to calm down without turning it off entirely. This distinction is critical. Curcumin doesn't shut down your immune system. It doesn't leave you vulnerable. It doesn't prevent your body from responding to real threats. What it does is help calibrate that response, bringing it back into a healthy, functional range, rather than allowing it to run persistently hot. Think of it like a thermostat in your home. The goal isn't to turn off the heat entirely. You'd freeze. The goal is to set it at the right temperature and keep it there. That's what curcumin does for inflammation. Beyond its anti-inflammatory action, curcumin is also a potent antioxidant. Free radicals are unstable molecules that your body produces as a natural byproduct of metabolism, and also absorbs from environmental exposure, things like pollution, processed foods, and stress. In normal quantities, your body handles free radicals just fine. But when they accumulate faster than your body can neutralize them, they cause what's called oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is one of the primary drivers of cellular aging and tissue damage. Curcumin both directly neutralizes free radicals and stimulates your body's own antioxidant enzymes to work more efficiently. That combination is genuinely powerful. Now, one last thing I want you to understand about curcumin before we move on, and this is something most people don't know. Curcumin on its own is actually poorly absorbed by the human body. If you just swallow turmeric powder and expect it to flood into your bloodstream, most of it passes through your system without being absorbed at all. There's a reason for this, and there's a very simple solution to it. I'm going to explain both in detail in just a few minutes, so stay with me. Now, if what I just told you about curcumin and chronic inflammation already has your attention, hold on, because what garlic does in your body is equally remarkable. And when these two work together, that's where things get genuinely exciting. Keep watching. What garlic actually does in your body. Let's talk about garlic, and specifically let's talk about allicin, because allicinin is to garlic what curcumin is to turmeric. It's the compound that does the heavy lifting. Now, here's a fascinating piece of biology that I love sharing because most people have never heard it. When you pick up a whole intact clove of garlic, allicin does not yet exist. Let me repeat that because it's important. Allicin does not exist in whole garlic. What exists is a compound called allion and an enzyme called alienase. These two live in separate compartments within the garlic cell. When the cell is intact, when the garlic is whole and uncut, they never meet. But the moment you crush, chop, or bruise that garlic clove, you break those cell walls. Allion and alienase come into contact for the first time. A rapid enzymatic reaction occurs, and within about 10 to 15 minutes, allicin is formed. This is why how you prepare garlic matters enormously. This is not a small distinction. If you throw a whole uncut clove of garlic directly into a hot pan, you're getting very little allicin and therefore very little of the benefit. If you mince or crush the garlic and let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes before applying heat, you give the enzymatic reaction time to complete. You maximize allicin formation. And this is the key, allicin itself is actually heat sensitive. So for culinary use, you want to add the garlic toward the end of cooking or use it raw where possible. We'll talk about practical methods in a few minutes. Now, what does A actually do? Firstly, powerfully supports immune function. And I want to be specific about how it does this because supports immunity is one of those phrases that gets used so loosely, it's lost almost all meaning. What the research actually shows is that allicin and its metabolites, the compounds your body converts allicin into after absorption, influence the activity of several types of immune cells. These include neutrophils, macrophages, and natural killer cells, which are all part of your first-line defense against pathogens. Allicin appears to enhance both the speed and the organization of these cells' response when a threat is detected. It's not an overactivation, it's a smarter activation. Your immune cells work more efficiently, communicate better, and respond more precisely. Second, allicin has documented antimicrobial properties. Now, let me be careful here. We are absolutely not saying garlic is an antibiotic. Garlic cannot replace antibiotic medication when you have a serious bacterial infection, and you should always follow your doctor's guidance on that. What the research shows is that allicin creates what you might call an unfavorable environment for certain types of harmful microorganisms without significantly disturbing your beneficial gut bacteria, the way broad-spectrum antibiotics sometimes do. This is a meaningful distinction. There's evidence suggesting allicin can inhibit the growth of several bacterial and fungal strains in laboratory conditions, and some clinical work suggesting it may reduce the frequency and severity of upper respiratory infections when used consistently over time. Third, and this is where it becomes especially relevant for the men watching this video, garlic has a well-documented effect on vascular function and circulation. The sulfur compounds in garlic, including allicin and its derivatives, promote the production of hydrogen sulfide in your blood vessels. Hydrogen sulfide acts as a vasodilator. It relaxes the smooth muscle in your arterial walls and allows your blood vessels to widen. This improves blood flow, reduces arterial stiffness, and supports healthy blood pressure regulation. Now, why does that matter so much for men over 50? Because healthy vascular function is not just a heart health issue. It is foundational to virtually every other system in your body. Your prostate receives its blood supply from branches of your internal iliac artery. Your bladder depends on healthy vascular tone to function properly. Your kidneys filter roughly 180 liters of blood every single day, and their efficiency is directly tied to the quality of blood flow they receive. And for men who are concerned about vitality and physical performance, adequate pelvic and systemic circulation is an essential piece of that puzzle. Clinical studies have shown that regular garlic consumption is associated with modest but statistically significant reductions in systolic blood pressure, in some trials comparable in magnitude to first-line antihypertensive medications, though with an obviously different mechanism. For men who are already on medication for blood pressure, this is important information to share with your doctor because it can influence dosing decisions. But for men who are working to support healthy blood pressure through lifestyle, garlic is one of the most evidence-backed dietary interventions available. There's also interesting emerging research connecting garlic consumption to testosterone metabolism. Some early-stage studies have looked at the relationship between garlic compounds and the hormonal environment in males, with some findings suggesting potential influence on luteinizing hormone activity and testicular function in animal models. The human evidence here is still early, and I want to be appropriately cautious about overstating what we know. But as a urologist, it's a line of research I watch closely because hormonal health in men over 50 has profound implications for energy, muscle mass, mood, libido, and urinary function. All areas where so many men in this community are looking for support. So we've got turmeric managing inflammation and protecting your cells. We've got garlic enhancing immunity, improving circulation, and supporting vascular health. These are already two extraordinary tools working independently. But here's the part that most people completely skip over. What happens when you put them together, and how to make sure you're not wasting them by doing it the wrong way? Stay right here. Why the combination is more powerful. Think of your body's health challenges, especially the ones that become more prominent as you move through your 50s, as a complex puzzle. No single piece completes the picture alone. Chronic inflammation is one piece. Immune dysregulation is another. Impaired circulation is a third. Oxidative stress is a fourth. These pieces overlap. They feed into each other. And that's precisely why a multi-targeted approach works better than a single intervention. Turmeric and garlic address these overlapping challenges through completely different molecular mechanisms. Curcumin works primarily through the NF-κB inflammatory pathway and through direct antioxidant activity. Allicin works primarily through the immune cell activation pathway and through vascular dilation mechanisms. They don't interfere with each other. They don't compete for the same receptors. Instead, they complement each other in a way that's genuinely synergistic, meaning the combined effect is greater than the sum of the parts. Here's a simple way to think about it. Curcumin tells your body to stop overreacting to perceived threats and reduce that background level of systemic inflammation. Allicin steps in and makes sure your actual immune response, when it does kick in for a real reason, is sharp, well-organized, and effective. One calms the system down. The other makes the system work smarter. Together, they create a biochemical environment in your body that supports faster recovery, better immune surveillance, lower inflammatory burden, and healthier circulation simultaneously. There's also a practical cardiovascular dimension to this pairing that deserves specific mention. Curcumin has shown evidence of supporting healthy endothelial function, the endothelium being the thin inner lining of your blood vessels, which plays a critical role in regulating vascular tone, platelet activity, and inflammatory signaling within the bloodstream. Garlic's vasodilatory effects work at the level of smooth muscle in the vessel walls. So you have curcumin supporting the inner lining and garlic relaxing the surrounding muscle tissue. For men who are concerned about cardiovascular health, and given that cardiovascular disease remains the leading cause of death in men over 50, every man watching this should be concerned. This dual mechanism of vascular support is clinically meaningful from a urological standpoint. There's a reason I find this combination particularly interesting. Chronic pelvic inflammation is a poorly understood but increasingly recognized contributor to urological symptoms in middle-aged and older men. Men who present with chronic pelvic pain syndrome, recurrent lower urinary tract symptoms, or ongoing prostate irritation often have elevated systemic and local inflammatory markers. While the research specifically on curcumin and allicin in the context of urological inflammation is still developing, the underlying mechanisms align strongly with what we already know about how inflammation contributes to these conditions. I'm not making clinical prescriptions here. I'm telling you as a urologist why I pay attention to this combination and why I think the research trajectory is worth following closely. The urological connection. Now, I want to bring this home specifically to the urological dimension, because that's the focus of this channel, and it's the lens through which I approach everything I share with you. The prostate is an organ that sits at the intersection of urinary function and reproductive health in men. As men age, the prostate undergoes natural changes, most commonly benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, which is simply the non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate that affects the majority of men in their 60s and beyond. The urinary symptoms associated with BPH, frequent urination, urgency, incomplete emptying, reduced flow, significantly impact quality of life. And while there are excellent medical and surgical interventions available, there is also a meaningful role for lifestyle and dietary factors in managing the inflammatory component of this process. Prostate tissue is particularly sensitive to inflammatory signaling. Research into the role of systemic and local inflammation in BPH progression is an active and growing field, and the mechanistic pathways through which curcumin modulates inflammatory signaling are genuinely relevant to this context. Similarly, the vascular support provided by garlic compounds is relevant to prostate perfusion and the health of the surrounding pelvic tissue and lower urinary tract. Beyond BPH, men over 50 are also navigating the reality of age-related changes in testosterone and overall hormonal balance. The relationship between inflammation, oxidative stress, and lighting cell function, the testicular cells responsible for testosterone production, is an area of active research. While I won't overstate what we currently know, the foundational evidence is clear that a physiological environment characterized by high oxidative stress and chronic inflammation is not a favorable one for hormonal health. Anything that reduces that inflammatory and oxidative burden, including the consistent use of these well-studied natural compounds, supports a more favorable hormonal milieu. And then there is the matter of vitality more broadly. The energy, the drive, the sense of feeling good in your body that so many men describe losing gradually through their 50s and struggling to reclaim. This is not inevitable. It is influenced enormously by the cumulative choices you make day after day. The food you eat, the compounds you introduce into your system, the inflammatory burden you either allow to build or actively work to reduce. Turmeric and garlic are not magic, but they are real. They are practical. They are affordable. They are ancient, and they are increasingly confirmed by modern science. And for men who are serious about taking charge of their health, they belong in your daily routine. Closing 30-30 to end. Here's what I want you to take away from this video today. Your body is not working against you. It is a remarkable system that responds positively, measurably, and often quite quickly to the quality of inputs you give it. Turmeric's curcumin helps calm the chronic inflammatory fire that silently undermines your energy, your recovery, your metabolic efficiency, and your urological health. Garlic salicin empowers your immune system, supports healthy blood pressure and circulation, and may contribute to a more favorable environment for hormonal health and prostate well-being. Together, prepared correctly, used consistently, they form a partnership that has served human health for thousands of years and continues to earn the support of modern clinical science. Start simple. Crush your garlic first. Let it rest. Add it with your turmeric and a pinch of black pepper and a drizzle of olive oil. Use it in your food every day. Give it 6 weeks of true consistency. Notice how you feel. That is the only laboratory that ultimately matters to you, your own body. If this video gave you something useful today, I want you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it helps this information reach more men who genuinely need it. Second, you haven't subscribed yet. Please do it now and ring that bell. Every week, I bring you evidence-based, practical guidance on neurological health, vitality, and men's wellness, and I don't want you to miss a single video. Third, share this video with one man in your life who you think would benefit. Your brother, your father, your friend, your colleague. This kind of information should not be gatekept. It belongs to everyone. I'm Dr. Olivia Brooks. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care of yourself because you are absolutely worth it. Disclaimer. This video is created for educational purposes only. The information presented here is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical condition. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet, health regimen, or medication routine. Individual results may vary.